This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet world, West Alabama. How are we doing today on this Wednesday? This is the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com, your home for the Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. We appreciate everybody watching us on the Bama Central YouTube channel today or checking us out on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither6 on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Or you might be listening to us on your favorite podcast platforms, The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or on Amazon. We appreciate everybody who might be checking us out on your podcast platforms. You can go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the show right there and jump right into it with us as we're getting into Alabama's second game week. Alabama and South Florida kicking off on Saturday at 6 o'clock. It's going to be a Nick Saban Field dedication, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to want to make sure that you are in your seats or you are in the Bryant-Denny Stadium area very, very early on Saturday because the festivities are getting started around 2:30 around the Saban Field dedication. So you want to be in there really, really early on Saturday. Make your plans to be in Tuscaloosa. We're going to have a lot of fun covering it for you on BamaCentral.com. And you can always subscribe to the Bama Central YouTube channel for all the video action that you miss or anything that you might miss at game day that we can see for you. We had Walk of Champions for you last week. We had Dixieland Delight. We have a video of Jalen Milroe going off the field, a video of Kalen DeBoer going off the field. So lots of interesting content right there on the Bama Central YouTube channel. So what are we going to do today? It's midweek. South Florida is on the horizon on Saturday. I've got three different kind of chunk topics, and we're going to get into them. We're going to get into Alabama's offensive line thoughts, kind of what's going on with the left tackle position and what you could see on Saturday night. We will get into what the biggest goals for Alabama are on Saturday. I have one big goal offensively, and I have one big goal defensively. So two biggest goals on Saturday night. And then lastly, we have initial thoughts on the South Florida game and how it matches up. Obviously, we are not gamblers, but we will give you our thoughts on the line. Last week, we absolutely nailed it. We nailed Alabama, the cover, and the over on the total. So we will give you our initial thoughts as we get closer and closer to the matchup against South Florida. But before we get started, we want to tell you about our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. They're the most reliable roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Purple Turtle Roofing, whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. They're the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635. Schedule your appointment today. One of their qualified employees will come check out your roof and make sure you're prepared and ready for any and all of life's storms. You can find them online as well at roofturtle.com. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with Alabama's offensive line because we have now concluded our media schedule for the week. We had, obviously, Alabama's offensive and defensive coordinator for you on Monday, along with Kalen DeBoer. We had select players yesterday. We had Jihad Campbell, we had Kendrick Law, we had Tyler Booker for a little bit yesterday. We had a lot of select players yesterday, and today we heard from Chris Kapilovic, Christian Robinson, we heard from Robert Gillespie, and Freddie Roach. So several coaches today. We've concluded the talking for the week. Obviously, later on in the evening, it'll be, hey, coach. That'll be the last time that you really hear anything media-wise from Alabama football going into the week. So we're thinking about really what's going on the field. And we think back to last week, Alabama has to emergency start Elijah Pritchett at left tackle because Caden Proctor injures his shoulder, has an upper body injury, think it might be a dislocation. We don't know. We'll find out if there's real damage behind it. Doesn't sound like there is. Anyways, Caden Proctor doesn't play. Elijah Pritchett gets thrust into the left tackle position, and Alabama's plan to rotate the right tackle position between Wilkin Formby and Elijah Pritchett goes out the window before the game even begins. Well, you wouldn't notice it if you weren't paying attention, because Alabama proceeded to put up 63 points against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, so the result didn't matter, but you're thinking about as the season goes on. Obviously, you expected to beat Western Kentucky anyways. That's not what the season is about. And you expect to beat South Florida this weekend as well. That's, again, not what the season is about. But the questions are really a status update. What will Caden Proctor look like? Will he return to the lineup? What will happen if Caden Proctor cannot return to the lineup? How will Alabama mitigate that hole or mitigate that problem going forward? And so we have a little bit of answers. We have a few answers from Kalen DeBoer's SEC coaches teleconference today. We have a few answers from offensive line coach Chris Kapilovich, and a few answers from photos put out by Alabama football practice, University of Alabama Athletics, as they put out their daily, here's your 15 photos from practice, and they're all great photos. We appreciate getting that because there's always some context clues there. What are we expecting for Saturday? I would expect. I would tell you to expect Caden Proctor to be out again on Saturday. Kalen DeBoer on the SEC coaches teleconference saying that he's close, saying that he thinks that he's kind of day to day. He's in that trying to give it a go, testing it phase. And if Caden Proctor were not hindered by the doctors, if you ask Caden Proctor to play this Saturday, it sounds like he would be all in on saying, yeah, coach, I'm in, let me play. But it's a long season. The 12-team college football playoff is now here, so you're adding a handful of games on the back end if you are getting to your goals. So you got to prepare like you're getting to your goals. Got to protect the player from themselves. I would expect Caden Proctor to not play this weekend. All right, that's all right. Alabama can work around that. I would expect you to see Caden Proctor the next week up in Wisconsin. I think that would be a realistic expectation. Hold him out this week, but bringing him back next week against Wisconsin. Just giving him that extra week and just making sure that he is ready by the time you get into the rigors of the season. That way you can go up to Wisconsin, you can test the shoulder, you're testing it against a very quality opponent, and then you have a bye week before you come back home to host the Georgia Bulldogs. Gives them a little bit of chance to say, okay, how did it go? Assess the situation, assess the shoulder, and see what needs to happen going forward. But I would expect if you're an Alabama fan or if you're watching this weekend, that Caden Proctor will be held out. So Elijah Pritchett goes back into the starting role for the left tackle position. And I would expect Elijah Pritchett will play better than he did this past weekend against Western Kentucky. Did he play bad? No, we didn't play bad. I think bad is an over-exaggeration. Did he play good? I think it's hard to put that moniker on it as well, that label on it as well. I think it's somewhere in between. I think it's above average. Yes, above average left tackle play. Above average left tackle play against inferior opponents. Now, we highlighted, I believe, yesterday the great play. The great play where Elijah Pritchett is washing down. It's the 85-yard touchdown run for Justice Haynes. Elijah Pritchett is washing everybody down. It's Elijah Pritchett and Tyler Booker, bam, double blocking down, and you've got Jaden Roberts and Wilkin Formby pulling around, and it's just beautiful offensive line play. So there was really, really good moments in the game. Obviously, you don't score 6 touchdowns on the ground without strong offensive line play. But there were some weak moments as well. You gave up the sack, Elijah Pritchett, and you gave up a couple other instances where Jalen Milroe was moved off of his spot. But You got to throw the context in there. You've been playing right tackle your entire fall camp. You got to go back to spring practice when you're playing left tackle. So you've been playing on the right side. You've been expecting to rotate, and by everything that I was told is that you were expecting to get maybe the second part of the rotation on the right tackle. It was going to be Wilkin Formby first for Alabama at the right tackle position. So you weren't expecting to start. So let's cut him a little bit of a break, give him a little bit of context, and say Elijah Pritchett, all in all, considering the circumstances, considering going from playing half the reps at right tackle and really the second half of the rotational reps at right tackle, you go from that to now you are starting at left tackle, bud, and you got to go figure it out all in the span of about 35 minutes. I'd say you did pretty good. B+, right? And so, again, I think you'd expect Caden Proctor to be out and Elijah Pritchett to be back in at left tackle this weekend. And I would expect Elijah Pritchett to perform better than he did last weekend. I think that give him a whole week to say, okay, I'm the left tackle this week, and this is my role now, and I've got to, it's basically sink or swim. I think that he's going to perform better against, again, an inferior opponent in South Florida. And that's how you're going to shake out the offensive line this week. I think it's going to be the same line that you saw last week. It's going to be Elijah Pritchett left to right, Elijah Pritchett, Tyler Booker, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, and Wilkin Formby. But what happens? That's the big what if. What happens if you have an injury? Or what happens if Elijah Pritchett does not play 5-10% better? What happens if he gets beat on a couple of speed rushes and you're having some problems there with Tyler Booker, or with Elijah Pritchett? You've got options. Chris Kapilovic basically kind of revealed his hand, and we're putting some context clues together. If Elijah Pritchett gets hurt, or if, heaven forbid, he's just not very good this weekend or going forward when you get into Power 4 conference game or Power 4 games and SEC games, if he's just not very good, what do you do then? Who's backing up Elijah Pritchett at left tackle at this point? And Chris Kapilovic, the offensive line coach, basically goes into it and gives you, Miles McVay has been doing it and Wilkin Formby has been doing it. And he says, and we've got a bunch of other guys who can do it as well. He kind of slips that in there on the back end of his comment. You can see it on the Bama Central YouTube channel. Miles McVay, Miles and Wilkin have been getting some action, and we've got a lot of other guys who can do it. Okay, so listen through that. And it does make sense. You take Wilkin Formby and make him the left tackle. You move him from right to left, and then you replace Wilkin Formby with Miles McVay. That's what actually happens if Elijah Pritchett goes down. But is that what happens, Joe? Maybe there's something else that happens. Maybe there's a different move, a different shuffling that happens before you swing Wilkin Formby from right to left and you replace Wilkin Formby with Miles McVay. Maybe there's a different shuffle. And using a little context clue from Chris Kapilovic and the practice photos, he's asked, what about Tyler Booker? I mean, he's your best offensive lineman. And really, Parker Brailsford is sitting there right behind him. But Booker is your best offensive lineman. What about moving Tyler Booker out to left tackle? Obviously, that's not his NFL future, but can he step in there to that role for a game or two, a week or two, while Caden Proctor recovers from this little knock, this little ding in his shoulder? And Coach Kapilovic was coy. He said, okay, we're considering all things. We're thinking about a lot of things. All options are under consideration. He was very coy about it. He wasn't, he didn't confirm nor deny. Then you see the practice photos that Alabama puts out today, and it is 52, your team captain, Tyler Booker, sitting there playing left tackle, and Gino Vandermark playing left guard, the transfer from Michigan State, who the Mr. Do-It-All. Gino Vandermark is already filled in for a week at right guard. And we know he's your next center, as he was on the field, 2 snaps into the game on Saturday, backing up Parker Brailsford, who had his helmet popped off right at the start of the game. So you see Jalen Vandermark out there, able to play left, right, and center, left, right guard, and center. And what do you see in the practice photos today but Tyler Booker playing left tackle and Gino Vandermark playing left guard? Just makes you wonder, is that under consideration? Is that option A, or is that the option we're going into the week with? Should that be what you'd expect to see at 6 o'clock in Bryant-Denny Stadium? Should you expect to see Tyler Booker sitting there at left tackle, Gino Vandermark left guard, boom, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Robertson, Wilkin Formby, and should Elijah Pritchett go back into the okay, you're still developing, sir. You're still cooking, sir. You're still marinating, sir. We're still preparing you for when you're able to play high-level minutes. It's going to be very interesting. And I think that you want to be in Bryant-Denny Stadium early to see what happens in warmups. And obviously not all of you can be there, and the game will be on TV as well, but you can follow us at BamaCentral.com. Our live updates will be letting you know what's going on during warmups, and that's the number one thing that I'm going to be looking for. Who's going to be your starting five? What's your first five? Kapilovic saying today, you've got to get your best five. And that's really the only thing you're worried about. Who's your best five offensive linemen? And is it Tyler Booker? Is Gino Vandermark better than Elijah Pritchett? That's the decision. Is Gino Vandermark better at left guard than Elijah Pritchett is at left tackle? And is the fall off between Pritchett and Tyler Booker so minuscule? Like, what are you getting there? So it's going to be very interesting to see how Alabama approaches things over the weekend. But the one thing that I think for sure is I think you should expect another week without Kadyn Proctor. I think they're going to rest Kadyn Proctor and try to make sure that he is healthier as you get deeper into the season. So it's going to be I'm going to be very fascinated to see what happens, on the offensive line. So that's kind of your status update. Now let's talk about, are we concerned? What's our level of, code red or not? And I would say, the question I wrote down is, am I concerned about Proctor? And then I have, how does it help Alabama and how does it hurt Alabama? My concern for Kadyn Proctor is about a 3, about a 4. I don't think that he suffered a serious injury. I think that it's going to be a time and rest thing. And you have that early in the season. Does it stink? Yes, it does. But as we have just noted a couple times now, the extended season, I want guys to, be ready to, don't rush themselves coming back, especially with what you have in the depth department. You do have bodies who are capable of playing. I think that Elijah Pritchett played a B-plus game on Saturday. I think that Gino Vandermark has pretty good quality experience at the Power 4 level playing for Michigan State. I don't really know how athletic he is, but I do think that you've heard all kinds of good things about his work ethic and about how him understanding and downloading the playbook. So I think that you'll be fine there. I'm not concerned about Kadyn Proctor and his health and availability. I think that you will get him back as the season kind of progresses. I think against Wisconsin should be a good expectation. Now, again, with injuries, setbacks happen. You could have, hopefully not, but anything could happen. But my expectation, as it is on Wednesday, is to see Kadyn Proctor for the first time in action up there at Camp Randall Stadium. Maybe it's another week. Maybe they push him back another 2 weeks because you've got that bye week, the 2 bye weeks in the college football season this year. So maybe it's another week. They say, okay, yeah, you are at 90% now for the Wisconsin week, but we're still holding you out because, look, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves and skip past South Florida. But I think Alabama is going to beat the brakes off of Wisconsin. And so if you want to hold him another week out and say, okay, your first action, it's going to be tough. Your first action is going to go against Georgia. What is it, Michael Williams, their great defensive end. That would be a very tough assignment for your first action of the season. But maybe you push and you wait until it is that Georgia game where you are at full strength before you put Kadyn Proctor back out there. So, no, I'm not really concerned about Kadyn Proctor. But let's take it how it helps Alabama and how it hurts Alabama. Maybe you're hearing all this news and you're thinking, oh my gosh, doom and gloom, woe is me, oh, Alabama is finished. But I would argue that this does have a potential to help the Crimson Tide. And it has potential to help the Crimson Tide because you are getting guys cross-trained. You're getting experience. Obviously, lots of guys got to play on Saturday because of the blowout and because of the inferior opponent. But you're getting guys in different spots in live action, in live reps, and you're practicing communication. You're working through communication on the sidelines with many different groups of guys. Right now, you've got your first five with Pritchett out there. Maybe on Saturday, your first five has Vandermark out there instead. I think that is very beneficial to the group to have versatility in their toolbox. If Tyler Booker plays on Saturday at left tackle, that will impress me very much. I already think he's a very good offensive guard. I already think he's a really quality college offensive lineman. If he plays left tackle on Saturday, yeah, it will be against an inferior opponent, but that will impress me very much. And it will give me a lot of confidence for what Alabama has in the depth department. Obviously, I think there still is concern for what you have behind Geno Vandermark as far as the interior three goes. You like the starting three and you like the one floater in Vandermark, but you're kind of concerned with what's after that, what's after Vandermark. And we saw on Saturday it looked like it's Olas Alenin with the helmet popping off incident. But I think if you're able to see, if you're forcing these linemen into some situations where they're having to be a little bit uncomfortable, then by the time that the health kind of rolls back into your favor, and you do have Caden Proctor out there, and you kick Tyler Booker back into his natural position of left guard, I think you're really going to see a lot of benefit in the experience gained from each player playing multiple different positions. So I do think it has a potential where it could help Alabama. Now, where it hurts Alabama, it's obvious. It hurts Alabama in the continuity department. The best part about the best offensive line play, 5 people playing as one. Everybody moving in sync with one another. And that's what you saw on that 85-yard touchdown run from Justice Haynes. All 5 offensive linemen were in perfect sync. Elijah Pritchett, Tyler Booker washed down. Jaden Roberts, Wilkin Formby pulled around, and boom, it was like parting of the Red Sea. Wilkin Formby came in and just led through, got the lead block, and Justice Haynes was gone. But it was all on the offensive line, really. And so it definitely hurts Alabama in the continuity department. If you are bringing Caden Proctor back, his first experience back this year is up there in Wisconsin or is right here in Bryant-Denny Stadium against the Georgia Bulldogs, it will be a challenge for the group. It's going to be a challenge for the group if they're up there at Camp Randall Stadium and you've got jump around going and the kids are going nuts up there at Camp Randall. And yeah, Wisconsin, they didn't look so hot in week number 1, but it will be a challenging environment. You probably will have some Alabama false starts, some delay of games, some communication issues. That'll be a big problem. Not a problem that they can't overcome, but it's certainly a problem. Same thing for when Georgia comes in. If that is when Caden Proctor is getting his first experience for this team, for this season, against Michael Williams, against that great defensive front, that's going to be a problem. Sure, the crowd will be in Alabama's favor. You're not going to be dealing with, oh my gosh, I can't hear, but you are going to be dealing with the highest of high-level talent on the other side of the football. So, of course, it's going to be a challenge. The continuity, it is an issue. But I think you have a potential to overcome that, maybe and lean on the positive side by saying, okay, Alabama is maybe adding to its arsenal and building its depth, but by getting more guys experience in different positions, and hopefully the versatility will shine through, will weigh more than the lack of continuity these games missed by Caden Proctor. So that's the Alabama offensive line thoughts, and that's really my biggest concern or thought with the team itself, with the Alabama roster itself going into the week. Obviously, you want to see more execution on offense. You want to see the defense do its thing, have more sacks. You heard Kane Womack talking about sacks and turnovers, and you want to see the team rectify its performance that it had last season against South Florida in Tampa. But I've got two main goals that I want to see for Saturday, and I want to invite you guys to let me know your main goals for Saturday. You can let us know in the comments section at Joe Gaither6 on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We're going to get into our main goals for Saturday for Alabama football, and then we're going to get into initial South Florida thoughts. But before we do that, we want to tell you about our friend Derek Daniel at State Farm Insurance. You can call Derek Daniel and his team today. He's got great team members. Red, Reese, and Victoria will be happy to walk you through a very quick auto insurance quote, home, life, and auto insurance. Quick and easy. Call them at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel and State Farm is there. You want a local agent? If you're especially you're from out of town, you want to get familiar with an area. One of the best ways to do that is by making sure that your insurance agent is local. Derek Daniel is just a mile off McFarland Boulevard, maybe 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now. So you can check him out, 4604 Highway 69 North, Northport, Alabama, 35473. Right past the Tiger Rock on the left. Call him today at 205-758-3391. If you're unsatisfied with the insurance that you've got from your current company, he'd be happy to compare your quotes, to go over your rates and see if he can't get you into better insurance with lower rates. Call him today, 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel and State Farm is there. All right, let's keep it going here. I got two big goals for Alabama football on Saturday against against South Florida. We're done with Western Kentucky. 6 o'clock against South Florida. Look, everybody knows what happened last season. I don't really care to dwell on last year's game because I don't think it matters that much. I don't think it matters that much at all. This Alabama team is so different. So different. Now, the South Florida team is returning 18 starters and has a lot of similarities to at least on paper from last year. But I don't think the game itself really matters. I've got two big goals, one on offense and one on defense. The biggest goal for Alabama offensively, at least from my estimation, sitting in the press box, not calling plays, just tapping on my keyboard, is eliminating negative plays on offense. We had the discussion on Monday about, is Alabama scoring too fast? Too many big plays. What stupidity. What absurdity, right? You score as quickly as you can. If there's nobody in front of you, you run the 85-yard Justice Haynes, right? You run the 84 yards or Ryan Williams. You take the ball into the end zone as quickly as you can. But one thing you can do is you can eliminate the negative plays. And there were negative plays to be eliminated from Saturday night. You had gave up a sack. We've gone over that 2 or 3 times. Gave up a tackle for loss in second half. Richard Young got a defensive lineman, came into the backfield, tackled Richard Young for a loss. 1 delay of game, 1 false start, 2 holding penalties. And people talk about, sustaining drives. Really, that's what they're meaning. If you score on 1st and 10, 80-yard touchdown pass, boom, right? You score 85-yard touchdown run, Justice Haynes. The issue was there were still a good handful of negative plays for this Alabama offense. And look, it goes back to last season. You've got people, Jalen Milroe is inconsistent. He can't manage an offense. He can't, trying to moan about probably the best athlete in the country and one of the best quarterbacks in the country as well. Sure, he may not be operating the game like Carson Beck. He may not be, scheming up the game like Quinn Ewers. But goodness gracious, Jalen Milroe, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And I think there were a few negative plays, and I think that's what sticks out into a couple of people's minds. You have a few plays where Jalen drops back and he rushes and scrambles, whether it was scrambling for a yard or scrambling for no yards or scrambling to throw the ball away. That happened a time or two. You just had some areas where, the protection wasn't quite right. Obviously, we just went over a couple of the negative plays that were on paper, the sack, and you have the snap that's over the head. Come on, that is one negative play. That's a huge negative play that has to be eliminated. You can't be snapping the ball over the quarterback's head. Not the second year in a row with that nonsense. Come on, yeah, that has to be cleaned up. So for me, look. You had so many great things on Saturday. How many running backs scored, right? Jalen Milroe with his 5 touchdowns. You had Ryan Williams with his 2 touchdowns. I thought Kendrick Law in the touchdown, look, we went over it on Monday. I thought that was a hugely indicative play of Alabama's growth as an offense. It was great stuff on Saturday. If you can focus this coming Saturday on eliminating those negative plays, shoot, 63 points. You could have scored, what's 2 more touchdowns? 63, that's 77. And goodness gracious, that sounds absurd to say, but you could have pretty easily on Saturday against Western Kentucky. I don't think Alabama's going to be scoring that many points this Saturday, but it will be better. It'll be nicer. It'll be more aesthetically pleasing. It'll give me more confidence in this team if Alabama's offense, if the number one thing that they do from last week to this week is eliminate the negative plays. Now, defensively, there's not a lot to complain about. Goodness gracious, you have the shutout, so shut your mouth, complainers, right? What more do you want other than the 0 on the scoreboard? All right, we look a little deeper into the 0, and you see the missed field goal from Western Kentucky, and you see the 4th down stop on the 5-yard line. All right, concede those points to the Hilltoppers. Let's just say that the field goal was made, and let's just say they opted for a second field goal. Maybe the score should have been 63-6 or 63-10. Still a really damn good performance. Really, really good performance. We already hit on the interceptions, the 2 Keon Sabb interceptions. We hit on Deontay Lawson dropping probably what was a pick 6. You hit on Quandarius Robinson, his incredible sack on the very first 3rd and long of the game. The one thing that I want to see on Saturday from the Alabama defense is the exact same level of intensity and effort on defense. What I was impressed with on Saturday night in the press box was the speed of the Alabama defense. We talked about it on Monday. We talked about it right on the show right after the game. The team flew around. The team played with reckless abandon. It's too simple to say they swarmed around because, of course, the 4-2-5 swarm defense. But goodness gracious, they did. They played like rabid animals. And not to say that the last couple of years of Nick Saban's defense, they didn't do that. But there was certainly a level of thinking going on the last couple of years in the Nick Saban defensive system. And, of course, I do think that the complexity is a strength, not a weakness. But it was eye-opening on Saturday. I thought, oh, gosh, these guys are really fast. These guys are really playing decisive. These guys are making a decision. This is my assignment. This is what I'm going to do. This is the guy I'm going to be attached to at the hip in this pass pattern. I'm going to speed rush this time. I'm going to power rush. It was just really impressive, the decisiveness from all 11 defenders almost throughout the whole game. Of course, there were a couple of guys that got knocked off of routes here and there, and TJ Finley's ineptitude certainly helped the shutout. Look, you got to be honest with ourselves. TJ Finley, horrible game. Horrible game. His body language exuded phoning it in, exuded quitting, exuded, I don't want to be here. Very quickly after the second interception, he's dropping back. He's throwing the first pass he can. He's trying to get rid of the passes as fast as possible. And I don't know if he got hurt. I don't know if any of these Alabama hits on him ended up, affecting his psyche or something. But the body language, I don't know what he was saying on the field. Obviously, it wasn't there. But the body language exuded, I'm quitting. And so, of course, that's certainly a factor. I don't think Byron Brown is going to quit on Saturday, the USF quarterback. I like his demeanor, watching him 2 years in a row, getting ready for this game last year and watching his game against Bethune-Cookman earlier in the day. I like Byron Brown. But what I want to see is Alabama's defense continue to play at that high level of intensity. If you get busted off a play, if you get pick played and there's a bust happens, okay, all right, that happens. And if Byron Brown's able to take advantage of that, you just tip your hat to the better offense. But you want to continue to be playing at level 11 out of 10. And that's what Alabama's defense did on Saturday. And maybe that's what contributed. Maybe that's what made TJ Finley, say, you know what, sayonara. I'm not playing. I'm done with this game. He certainly looked like he quit on that game and on his teammates. But I do want to commend the Alabama defense for how fast it played and say that is the number one thing that I want to continue to look for. If you drop a pick six, Deontay Lawson, but you're still playing 100 miles an hour, okay, you can live with mistakes because you're playing so fast. The other big thing and the kind of compounding factor to this is I want to see how Kane Wommack's defense plays against a dual threat quarterback and the hurry-up system. We asked the players this week about how fast South Florida goes. They ran the most plays per game in college football last season. They're going to be snapping the football at 23, at 24, at 25 seconds, at 22 seconds on the shot clock. Right? They're going to be getting to the line as fast as possible. And we all know over the last 17 years, that's what Nick Saban's whole defensive system struggled with. Look, we can be honest with ourselves. That's okay. It wasn't a perfect system. The dual threat scrambling quarterback, the athletic quarterback, gave Nick Saban hell. And the fast-paced offense as well really gave Nick Saban a lot of problems as well. Now, there was adjustments that he made to his system and to what he looked for into his personnel over the last, 6 years, over the last 10 years of that 17-year stretch. But from 2010 to about 2017, 2019 or so, there was some real problems with the hurry-up offense. So I'm really going to be curious to see how Kane Wommack handles the hurry-up offense, how Kane Wommack schemes up a very squirrely quarterback. And I think it's going to be very fun to see if there's a schematic shift or if there's a noticeable improvement, at least from the Alabama defense, at least from that standpoint, dealing with a dual threat quarterback. So those are the two things that I'm looking for on Saturday. Can Alabama's offense eliminate the negative plays from this past Saturday? And can Alabama's defense continue to play at 1,000 miles an hour? Can they continue to play with their hair on fire? And then, look, you play like that, you have some mistakes, you live with those mistakes. If USF scores some points, but you've been playing with your hair on fire, okay, that's fine. Still, the freshmen that played on Saturday, if they get out there and they make some mistakes, you're going to have to live with it. Just want to see if the intensity remains at an impressive level, and I'm going to be very curious to see how Alabama's defense deals with Byron Brown and the hurry-up offense. All right, we're going to have one more topic on the show today. We're going to talk about USF itself, what they did with Bethune-Cookman. Before we get into it, though, I want to go back to our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. They're the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing, they're going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Purple Turtle Roofing, they're the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all of your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635 to schedule your appointment. One of their qualified employees will come check out your roof for free and make sure you're prepared for any and all of life's storms. We appreciate Dustin Foley and Purple Turtle Roofing sponsoring the program, and we appreciate everybody for using Purple Turtle Roofing for all of their roof needs. All right, I spent this morning watching the USF Bethune-Cookman game. All right, Bethune-Cookman is bad. So what do we take away from a huge blowout, 48-3, the South Florida Bulls beating Bethune-Cookman? Really, for me, when I think about what Alabama is going to be facing on Saturday in South Florida, I think about really the journey that South Florida has been on. Alex Golesh and his program. This is Alex Golesh's second year. He basically reinvigorated them last year. And look, you all remember it. We don't have to rehash the 17-3 dentist appointment, 4-hour dentist appointment, watching Alabama and South Florida last year. They're a team with fight. They're a team with belief. They hung in there with Alabama. Look, they were offensively challenged last year. Byron Brown couldn't really throw the ball down the field. And I didn't see a whole lot of difference from that whole lot of improvement, at least in that area, against Bethune-Cookman on Saturday. But what you do notice is they won 7 games last year. They ended up getting to a bowl game for the first time since 2018. And so there's a lot of belief in the South Florida program. And we talked about it a year ago after the game, how much Alex Golesh said there's no moral victories. We've got to be better. We had a perennial powerhouse on the ropes and we let them off the hook in our home stadium. He was disappointed. And I found that to be very refreshing. And of course, look, they're not a Power 4 program, but they're playing in the American Conference. It's not a slouch conference. Used to be on that fringe of the Power 5, right? The old Big East. And the old Big East obviously is disbanded and broken into 3 or 4 different leagues, the Big Ten, the American Conference, and the ACC. But it's not a slouch conference. They ended up at 7-5, I believe, last year, and they absolutely crushed Syracuse in their Boca Raton Bowl, 45-0. They come out this year and they crushed Bethune-Cookman, 48-3. Is South Florida going to win the game on Saturday against Alabama? No chance. Well, we're not going to say no chance, but basically very little chance. So I'm not going to sit here and sell you how good South Florida is going to be. But what did I see on tape? What did I see that stood out to me that said, oh, that might be something that gives Alabama trouble? That might be something to watch for on Saturday. I think that this South Florida team will contend for the American Conference Championship. I do. Will they win it? I have no idea. But will they contend for it? I think they will. Just like I think that Western Kentucky, Alabama's victim last week, will contend for the Conference USA Championship. But what do we notice? We notice Byron Brown is still a very elite athlete. Very, very elite athlete. On Saturday against Bethune-Cookman, he goes 13 for 20, 152 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but 74 yards rushing and a touchdown on 8 carries, averaging 9 yards a carry. He busted a 42-yard run. This guy is still very squirrely. Now, Alabama did a good job last year kind of limiting his scrambles. Now, he did get out of the pocket a lot, but it was Dallas Turner, it was Deontay Lawson, it was at that time Trez Marshall and Jihad Campbell and Jalen Key really doing a good job of, boxing him in, whether it was spy concepts or just kind of whatever it was within the scope of the defense. Byron Brown rushed for about 100 yards last year. Now he threw for like 80, 85 yards, and he looked dangerous out of the rush. But Alabama did a really good job preparing for the dual threat ability of Byron Brown. I think they're going to do another good job of preparing for his ability to scramble and run. The issue for me is how will Alabama deal with the hurry up, the speed, the pace? Coach Kalen DeBoer talked about it on Monday. He said, when our cleats were on the ground on Saturday, talking about the Western Kentucky game, we performed well. We got our assignments and we executed our assignments. Our problems came up when we did not have our cleats in the ground, when we were not set for the play. And so it's going to be very interesting to me to see how Alabama deals with the South Florida hurry up. Will Kane Womack, is that going to be an area where Kane Womack and the helmet communications this season is that going to drastically improve how teams can play against hurry up offenses? Because you're talking directly into the in Alabama's case, the Mike linebacker, the Deontay Lawson. You're talking directly into Deontay Lawson. You can call your play call whatever you're trying to get across, right to his ear, and he can start yelling it out, signaling it out to his teammates. I'm very interested in that. Now, I did like South Florida running back Kelly Joyner. He had 78 yards and 2 touchdowns against Bethune-Cookman. But what did I run most plays per game? Oh, yeah. South Florida, they ran most plays per game last year. No, I like Kelly Joyner, but here's the deal. They played Bethune-Cookman, a team that's picked to finish 5th in the SWAC. And so what is that win really worth to them? It's going to be very challenging. I think the level of athletes is going to be much different on Saturday against Alabama. Now, look, I did think that Western Kentucky was going to score last weekend against Alabama. I thought that they were going to score. I think when I predicted the score, I think I said 56-23. I'm pretty sure that's what I kind of settled on, 59-23. So I was pretty confident in Alabama covering last weekend, and I was very confident in the over. Western Kentucky didn't help with that. So you look at the line this week, 6 o'clock on Saturday. You got a dual threat quarterback. You have a game where I think that Alabama is going to be really, really hungry to make a statement. Jihad Campbell on Tuesday was not rude by any means, but not fiery either, but was very matter of fact. We'll just say that. He was very matter of fact with his questions about South Florida. We're going to see you on Saturday. We're not thinking about that. We want to perform well on Saturday. We want to dominate our box. We're going to see. We'll find out on Saturday. Lots of coy lots of coy answers about the game this Saturday. Made me think, these guys are really going to be out to make a statement. So you look at this week's game, and Alabama's a 31-point favorite again. Last week, 31.5. It's still sitting at 31. I think that's down from 32, 33 that I saw earlier in the week. And the total is 63.5. So it's up 4.5 points from last week. And I think that Alabama's still going to score a butt ton of points. And they're going to score a truckload of points. It's going to be the offense this year is going to be operating at a high level. I think you're going to be really, really hard-pressed to stop this Alabama offense this year. I think you're going to have a really special defense to slow this Alabama offense down this year. So, again, when I wrote down on my sheet, I wrote down 55 points. I think that you're going to have another another 49 to 63 point affair. I think you're going to score a lot of points on Saturday night. Yes, I know South Florida is returning a lot of players on its defense, but just athletically speaking, it's night and day. It's apples and oranges, what you're comparing on Saturday. So I wrote down 55. And again, I think that Alabama's defense is going to play well. I think that they played well on Saturday, and they should have given up 10 points. I think they're going to play well, and I think that Byron Brown and the South Florida Bulls are going to score a few points. I wrote down 55-17. And I don't feel great about it because I thought initially that for a while going into this matchup in the summertime, I thought that South Florida was going to cover the spread and was going to probably play a 10-point game, score a lot of points, and play about a 10-point game because I did have concerns about the consistency of Alabama's defense. But now, after seeing Alabama one night against Western Kentucky, that's the only sample size that we have to go off. It was a great performance defensively. So we will see if Alabama can maintain its intensity. I do still think South Florida will score a touchdown or two. I think a shutout would be too much to ask for. I wrote down 55-17. So that puts you at Alabama by 38. Boom, there's your cover for the Crimson Tide, and that puts your total at 72. So there's your over. Again, your second straight week that I am leaning Alabama cover and over on the total. We'll nail that down on our Football Friday predictions when we get everybody in here predicting a lot of the games. But that is how I'm feeling right now after I've watched South Florida and Bethune-Cookman. It's going to do it for our show today. We appreciate everybody joining us on the Bama Central YouTube channel. We appreciate everybody checking us out on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We appreciate everybody who's listening to us, who has downloaded us on their favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or on Amazon. The Joe Gaither Show Show on Bama Central. You can find us right there. I really appreciate anybody and everybody who's joining us and telling their friends about the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. Are you looking for something to do tomorrow night or even Friday as you are coming into town for the South Florida game? Keep Druid City Music Hall in your plans. On Thursday, they got Charlotte Sands and Taylor Acorn playing over at Druid City Music Hall starting at 8 o'clock. Concerts start at 8. They're going to go to 10:05, just right after 10 o'clock. So if you are an old folk like I am, you can still be in bed before midnight and get up for work the next day or be ready for your Saturday. On Friday, they got Zach Hood. So two great concerts, two great acts, Charlotte Sands and Taylor Acorn on Thursday at Druid City Music Hall and Zach Hood on Friday at Druid City Music Hall. You can check out their entire lineup. They've got shows basically every week of the fall semester, especially every week of the football season, kind of celebrating, trying to draw some of the Alabama football crowd for these Thursday, Friday shows. So check them out, DruidCityMusicHall.com. Let's see, it's DruidCityMusicHall.com/shows for their entire lineup for their fall Kaleidoscope series. We appreciate Druid City Music Hall. We appreciate Derek Daniels, State Farm Insurance, and we appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program. This has been another edition of the Joe Gaither Show right here on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.